Hello, hello, hello! Hello! What do you guys think of Drop Zone, huh?
Yeah!
Amazing, right? How dare you guys be so good? We love them. Wow. What a great time. I don't know about you, but I nearly had a coronary when I found out that so many great characters were going to be in Picard. How excited are you about Picard, right? That's like, oh my God. Yeah, now this isn't spoilers for anybody, right? Everybody knows. You know, you got 7 of 9's going to be back, right? Hugh Borg is going to be back, right? Number 1, Riker will return. Troy is coming back. And everybody's favorite android, I do mean everybody's favorite android, Data will be returning. So what a great time to have Brent with us. Here he is. Elvis is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Brent Spiner!
My van. Thank you so much. Wherever I go, that van plays. It's amazing. Aren't you glad you came on Wednesday? Me too. Okay, gotta go. That always works, doesn't it?
I thought you were going to sing with them. They brought it down to the vamp and they were ready for you to...
I don't know the words to that vamp.
Next time.
Yeah, next time, guys. Is this where I'm performing?
Make yourself comfortable.
Is this where I'm performing Saturday night?
On the stage.
On this stage?
Not on this chair.
Not on this, no.
Yeah.
Well, I might.
Hey, are you psyched about him Saturday night?
Yeah!
And Search for the Lost Chord, yes.
Thank you, thank you.
It's only taken 15 years to get you to do it. How long have I been pestering you?
Well, it's even longer.
Yeah, it's been
since I met you.
You finally broke down.
Exactly.
Right.
So okay, I'm just getting the lay of the land, the feel.
Make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, I will. It's a large space.
It's a great stage for you. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, right.
And actually, you're performing with members of the Nevada Pops Orchestra, right?
The Nevada Pops Orchestra. We couldn't get the whole orchestra here for.
We have part of the orchestra.
Okay.
It's a budget. Budget
we have the strings.
You should have at least a string.
I think we have a string. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Johnny, for you older people in the audience, let me say, for the younger ones, so Jimmy, my new film's about to come out. No, I don't have a new film. What am I talking about?
You have a new TV series, though, right?
I actually, for the first time in my life, I actually have 2 TV series.
Do tell.
I mean, I'm saying that now. I haven't shot anything yet for the second one, and I've shot precious little for the first one. But it still counts, right? Yeah. Is there a monitor out there?
It's actually right down.
No, I mean, is there can they see me?
Oh yeah. There's 4 screens.
Yeah. Is that going to be happening during my singing engagement?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I know. Actually, we're turning off the cameras for that. We don't want to embarrass you.
Appreciate that. Because from the very back of this room, I look like a raisin on a couch right now.
You look like a well-preserved raisin. How great does he look, right? I can't get over it. That baby face just never goes away.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know what? You look exactly as you look.
You look marvelous, darling.
No. You know what? You look better than when I first saw you.
Oh, well.
No, you really look. The first when I met Adam.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
That was 30 years ago.
Can you believe it's 30 years? I mean, that's really insane. You know.
I mean,
that's great.
Looked horrible.
Awful. Terrible.
But look at you now. You know, wouldn't it? It's like Benjamin Button. You're going in the other direction.
Right. I know.
Don't you wish we could all do that?
You and I share a passion for musical theater.
Yes.
I can't help it. Any musical theater fans out there?
Anybody hate musical theater out there? Yeah, there you go.
Well, you people forget it.
Yeah.
But seriously, though, I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. You've got a theater background. That's why I'm so glad that you're, performing Saturday night. You've done a few things on Broadway,
I have.
But you want to just talk a little bit about that before we kind of get into the whole story?
You know what? Apropos of that, and not to bring everybody down, but we lost a giant in the musical theater today, Hal Prince.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, who directed and produced some of the greatest shows ever on Broadway. I unfortunately was never lucky enough to work for him, but I did work for one of his partners in several of his shows, which was Stephen Sondheim, and that was one of the great experiences of my life.
I mean, actually, Sondheim is one of the great composers of modern musical theater.
Certainly the genius of our time. There are new guys coming up like Lin-Manuel and others, but for when I was coming up in the theater, Sondheim was it, and he'll live forever.
Yeah, and I mean, but as a television and film actor, Broadway uses a lot of different muscles than what you do in film to entertainment.
You know what I'm wondering? I mean, given that these huge, screens is this a good angle for me right now?
That's one of your good sides. Both sides are good sides.
I mean, I could be doing this the whole time, and I'm not ignoring you, Adam. It's just I think this is my better side.
Yeah, that's okay.
So look, when I first met you, well, you know what? You look even better now than a few minutes ago.
Can we just take just a minute and talk about the Independence Day films? Because I really love those movies. And I was delighted to see your character come back in the last film. It was it was a great surprise, really.
It was for me too. But I keep coming back as previously dead characters. So it seems. And but Independence Day, I was thrilled to do it again. To be honest, the film did not land particularly well with audiences or critics or anything like that. But I had a great time doing it, and I love working with Roland Emmerich, who directs and the films, and the actors I got to hang with were just. It was fantastic to see those guys after 20 years and come back and do it again.
Was Dean as involved as he had been?
Not really. I don't know where Dean was there the first couple of days, and then he had other things to do because he was still working on Librarians at that point. I know the first time I heard about the movie was in his office that we were going to do it again, but I'd like to do one more Independence Day. And
they left it open for a big sequel, right?
Like it felt to me like we're coming back, but you never know. 20th Century Fox made those films, and Disney owns them now, and I just don't know what they're thinking about that, or if they're thinking about it at all. They had this other little space thing. What's that called?
Star Wars. Star Wars. Star Wars.
What? Oh, Star Wars.
Tied up with that.
Yeah. But they've got that whole universe now to play with, and
with any luck.
Yeah, with any luck. And with all of your the writing campaign you're all going to start, should happen. I think.
All right, let's go through the dark mists of time. And go back to, was it 1985, 1986? How did the whole casting thing for Data come about in the first place for you?
Well, I was I was in Los Angeles. I'd been in New York for several years working in the theater. And what happened
Why were you in LA after being in the theater?
Well, initially, I thought I need to go to LA because I'm now in my mid-30s, and At that time, I was in my mid-30s. I'm not, come on.
Why are they laughing? It's horrible. Don't
I'm not
laugh.
trying to pull the wool over your eyes here.
Don't laugh.
I'm a man deep into his 40s now, and I wouldn't. No. Anyway, so I thought what I need to do now is live like an adult person, because I've been working in the theater and living in New York, and you don't make any money, or it's just for love that you do that. And so I got the opportunity to go to Hollywood with playing Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah, my very good friend.
The stage Little Shop?
The stage
Yeah,
Little Shop.
right.
Yeah, one of my great friends, Lee Wilkoff, created the role of Seymour. He's on the original cast album. He was sensational in the show. And while I was in New York, I got a call, would I be interested in playing the dentist in Little Shop in New York? And I said, sure. So I went in, I auditioned, and they said, well, we're going to use you at some point. We just don't know exactly when. And finally they called me and they said, well, instead of playing the dentist, would you want to play Seymour, and who was the lead in the show? But it's in the LA production. And I said, yeah, sure. So I went to LA and I replaced my buddy Lee, who was on his way to London to do it. And I'm the second person who ever played Seymour in Little Shop, other than understudies. Thank you, Ryan.
It's actually a fabulous score. Is that Mark Shane?
Yes, it's Mark Shane.
Yeah, it's a great
No, it's not Mark Shane.
It's a great score.
Well, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken.
Ashman and Menken, yeah.
And
that must have been fun, I mean.
Oh, it's a great score, and it's a great show to do. And so I actually closed the show in Los Angeles, but the last day of the last evening performance, a guy came to see the show, a casting director named Lynn Stallmaster, who at that time was the casting director. And he said, I want you to come in and see me tomorrow. And I went in, and all of a sudden I had two other jobs. I did an episode of The Paper Chase television series, and I did a mini series called Robert F. Kennedy and His Times. And I had a really nice part in that. And I thought, man, this is easy. And you just throw out your line and reel them in, So I went to New York. I had one brief thing I had to finish there. I think I did, Sunday in the Park with George. But I just did it for, we had been off Broadway with it, and I went to New York. They had gotten it was going to go to Broadway, and they invited me to go, and so I said, well, I've got to do this. I went back to New York. I said, I'll do it for 4 months, but I want to go back to LA because things were happening there. Quick story about Little Sunday in the Park.
Was that Mandy
Patinkin and Bernadette Peters.
Bernadette,
Yeah.
Amazing score by Sondheim.
Brilliant score. And when we did it in the workshop, there's a great part in the show of a soldier who carries around a cardboard cutout of himself, and he thinks he's his brother. And it's a really funny part. When we did it off Broadway, Kelsey Grammer played that part. And he was brilliant in the part, sensational. But he got into a dispute of some sort with the writer-director of the show, James Lapine. They didn't get on, but they had a moment that just didn't work. And what? Go what?
Sorry, it didn't affect me.
It didn't what?
Don't worry about it.
Someone's talking to me in the front. Yeah. And then, okay, never mind. So anyway, if you think of something else, feel free. Yeah. Kelsey was the only person in the show who was not invited to go to Broadway when we went to Broadway with it. And so the good part of that story is, while we were in rehearsal for the Broadway production, Kelsey was flown out to LA to audition for the role of Frasier in Cheers.
Which is great.
And had he been in Sunday in the Park with George on Broadway, who knows who would be Frasier? I mean, Kelsey, went on to make incredible success with
Careers
the role.
work in that circuitous manner anyway.
I think careers in general have a mind of their own, and it never ever occurred to me that I would be in science fiction, that the bulk of my career would be in science fiction projects. That was the last thing I imagined I would be doing, and my career had its own ideas.
How did the data casting opportunity come about then?
Well, so I had an agent in Los Angeles who was connected to my agent in New York, and he sent me up for, he called me, he said, hey, they got a new Star Trek coming, and the casting director, Junie Lowry, would like you to come in and audition. And I said, Star Trek? They're not going to be able to do another Star Trek. That's impossible.
Did you know Junie? Because she's a legend herself.
Junie?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know Junie at that point. Junie is one of the great casting directors too. She's phenomenal. And she's done so many tremendous projects. And so I went in and met her, and I read with her. It was just me and her. And she said, well, I think the guys, I think that they should see you. They need to meet you, the producers of the show. So I said, okay. And I went in to audition, and it was Rick and Bob Justman and Gene Roddenberry and Corey Allen, who was directing the pilot. And you remember, Corey Allen, who directed our pilot, by the way, was a wonderful actor. When he was young, he was an actor, became a director, but he's in the movie A Rebel Without a Cause. And if you've ever seen Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean and Natalie Wood, Corey's the guy who does the car chase, the car race, and gets his leather jacket stuck on the door, and his car goes over the cliff. But he was terrific, a wonderful guy. And so I read for them. I was about to read for the first time for them, and they had said before I went in, make a choice because, Junie had said to me, make a choice because they don't know whether they want this character to be like a machine and very machine-like, or whether they wanted him to be more kind of like a person. And so I thought about it. I said, yeah, I don't think I want to play a robot. I make it more like a person. So I prepared my audition, and just before I went in, Judy came out of the room and she said, but they think they'd like you to do it more like a robot, more like a machine. And I said, oh, I think I'm going to leave then. And she said, don't leave. And I said, well, that's what I prepared. And so she said, well, stay here. Let me go in and talk to him. So she went in, she came out, and she said, well, you know what? They actually said they're not so sure. They might want you to read for Riker. And, yeah. And I said, Riker? I don't want to play Riker. And so she went back in again, and then she came out and she said, okay, they said just tell him to come in and do whatever he prepared. So I did, and...
But you did have that interesting affectation. Data has a certain lilt, and the way he talks, that has some kind of a...
Well, there is a style to it. There is he is he is a machine, and he is a learning machine. But I think I did not want to play him like this. I didn't think that would be, would have much longevity. I think I'd have been gone by the third episode. Please, don't make that guy come on the screen again. So...
he's an empathic, inquisitive machine, but...
If you will.
Yeah, and so, and you killed the audition, or?
Well, I did okay, and then they had me back again 6 more times. And, seriously. I had to audition again for Gene, and then I had to audition for the executives at Paramount several times.
That's painful.
That was awful. And because there were also 2 or 3 other guys they were considering at the same time. And I, of course, had to put them to death. And then finally, I remember Corey Allen called me, and he said, I really, really like what you're doing with this. And I said, well, I have to be honest. I'm not sure I want to do this. And he said, well, nobody's offering it to you. I just wanted to say I like what you're doing. Oh, okay, all right. So I called my agent. I really didn't know if I wanted to do it. I was kind of scared of it because I thought, will I ever be able to do anything else? And I called my agent at the time, and I said, I'm not sure I want to do this. And he said, look, just do it. And if you hate doing the pilot, I can get you out of the series. We'll figure out something. So I said, all right. So I did it. And I thought, it's not going to run for more than a year anyway.
This is the era of syndication. You don't know up front that the thing's going to have a 7-year lifespan, or
right? And they pre-sold it for the first year, so we knew it was going to have a full year. And I thought, this is perfect. I can pay off some of my bills, and then it will fail, and on I can go. And little did I know that 30-something years later, here I am.
And, amazing. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about each of your castmates. Could you just say a word or two about each of them? You have some funny anecdotes about every one of them, but
I don't know. Do I?
Yes, you definitely do. Let's start with Jonathan.
Jonathan. Well, Jonathan. This is an old story, but Jonathan. You know how Jonathan. He's a big guy. Jonathan, I don't know if you realize this, but he is the largest of all of us on the screen. I mean, he's bigger than Dorn. He's a really big guy, and I didn't even realize how big he was until recently. And seriously, I saw a photo of him, and he had his arm around me, and again, I looked like a raisin in his arm. It was ridiculous how big he was. But he had this thing where he had that walk, where he kind of walked sideways, and red alert, and he'd walk. But he was loud. He was the loudest of all of us too. It's hard to imagine watching the show that Jonathan was the worst behaved of all of us. I mean, he really was. He was like a big kid, and he was having fun, and then he'd play Riker, and he'd have to be serious, but he wasn't serious. But he would come down that horseshoe ramp from the bridge, to the back of the bridge, and he'd come walking down in that way down. And one time he came down, and I don't know, he lost his balance, and he went right into the wall. And you know how when the Roadrunner runs into stuff and there's a cutout? There was literally a cutout of Jonathan in the wall. It was... Yeah.
How about Sir Patrick Stewart?
What can I say? What can I say that you don't already know? I'm so happy to be back doing the show. It's called Star Trek Picard. And that's... If you ever say that title to anyone, you must say it like this. Star Trek Picard. Can you do that, Adam? Star Trek
Picard.
Yes. Exactly.
Was there a bit of a culture shock, because he's British, and he was maybe a little repressed at the very beginning, a kind of very tight, stoic English
Well, he'd
person?
come from the Royal Shakespeare, you see, and thought of himself as an actor.
And so we were really bad. We were wild. And I know a lot of you have heard these stories before, but It's like Tony Bennett singing "I Left My Heart in San Francisco," isn't it? But he. Did you want something else? No, I think it's good. So anyway, Patrick was a little. He would let us misbehave. I mean, Jonathan was loud, and Denise was almost as loud as Jonathan, and I was having a good time. We were all having a good time, and we had a director who it was the episode actually where Denise met her fate, where Tasha Yar met the pool of Metamucil. And so somewhere in the middle of that being shot, the director said he said, okay, look, we would go. He would say, all right, and we have the sound guy would say we have speed, and the camera operator would say rolling. The clapboard would go, and we'd hear and action, and well, for a long time, it was like we were wild and having a good time until they said, we have speed. And then we'd stop and we'd straighten up. But then after a while, it was like, we have speed, we're rolling would make us stop. And then after a while, it was the clapboard that would make us stop. And then finally, it was action, and we would stop and straighten up and do the scene. And so the director just couldn't handle it. And he was a professional. And he called Rick Berman, who was producing the show, and he said, I'm never coming back again. I'm never going to direct this show again. And he was a very good director. So Rick called us all, and he sent word down here, everybody stop, I want you to come into the captain's ready room. I need to talk to you. So he came and he said, look, you guys gotta stop. You're too loud. You're really. This guy is a wonderful director. He says he's never coming back again. And so Patrick says, I'm appalled. There's never in my life at the Royal Shakespeare Company have I seen such unprofessionalism. And Denise said, gee, Patrick, I mean, we just want to have fun. And he went, fun? You think this is fun? This is work. We're here to work. And now Jonathan's crying. Because he's a very sensitive guy, no matter, he's that big guys often are. And so we were like, oh my God, this is really embarrassing. And I was just looking at the floor thinking, oh my gosh. And later on, a couple days later, maybe even that afternoon, frankly, we had this sequence where Patrick was the eulogy sequence for Tasha Yar, and Patrick was on top of this beautiful hill, this bucolic scene where he was going to give his eulogy, and he went up to the hill to see what it was like to stand up there, and I'm looking at the monitor, and all of a sudden Patrick starts whirling around, and he goes, "The hills are alive!" And somehow, from that point on, he was just like us. And literally, he was as bad as we were from that point to the end of the series.
Well, that's wonderful, but the good news is the show just got better and better. Did you feel the tide turning a little bit when Michael Piller came on? I felt like there was kind of a sea change and the show really started getting really good.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I tell you what I think was the first indication of that we were going to be a better show. Was that, I mean, we had some episodes in the first season that were okay. Big Goodbye, I think, is a really good episode. We won the Peabody Award for Big Goodbye.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but there were a lot of the average wasn't so hot in the first season, and we were finding our way. Everybody was trying to find their characters, and the writers were trying to find the tone of the show. I mean, we started the first episode, Naked Now, was to almost R-rated. I mean, it you know, things happened in that never happened again on the show because I think the Paramount came down on it and told Gene, you can't do that. And he thought he was going to do a more sophisticated show second time around. But they said, no, we want the family show. So our first season wasn't so hot, but it was somewhere in the second season. I'll tell you what turned it for me was in the hiatus between the first year and the second year, I got a call from Rick Berman, and he said, hey, we've got somebody coming on the show next year as a semi-regular on the show who is a major movie star. And I went, what? He said, yeah, you won't believe it. And I said, who is it? He said, well, try to guess. I said, well, give me a hint. And he said, Jewish. And I said, well, it's got to be Judd Hirsch, right? And I love that part. And he says, no, it's Whoopi Goldberg. And so I said, Whoopi Goldberg is coming on the show? Whoopi Goldberg was huge at that point.
And still is.
Yeah, it still is. But I don't think she had won her Oscar even yet. But she was a big star at that point. She was starring in movies. And she'd done Color Purple by then. And thank you very much. When I directed Color Purple, I never thought E.T. would be in my future, but anyway, so I thought, wow, Whoopi Goldberg's on the show? And in truth, I think that's when people, in general, when critics began to take us seriously. We had this major star on the show, because she had said to him, she'd called him and said, I want to be on the show. And he said, okay, we'll write you an episode. And she said, no, I don't think you understand. I want to be on the show. So they built a set for her. And 10 Forward, was it 10 Forward? Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was the name of that room? Yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah, and so they built 10 Forward for Whoopi. And Guinan was a great character, really original character. And she was sensational. And so I think that changed things a lot. We still did some lousy episodes in the second season, don't get me wrong. We did bad episodes in every season, but fewer and fewer as it went along. And as you say, when Michael Piller came on, the show kind of solidified because Michael and Rick really gelled. They were really partners at that point and really appreciated each other. And then Michael also had a wonderful way of mentoring young, really talented writers like Brandon Braga and Ron Moore and Joe Manosky and Ira Bear. And I mean, all of those guys
who all went on to be showrunners, and they're brilliant storytellers and showrunners of their own.
Right, and there are others too. I'm just not thinking of them at the moment, but he was a terrific guy, Michael Piller. He really was.
Forgive me, we're real tight on time. I want to have at least 10 minutes for questions from the audience. It's flashing by us. Just talk a little bit about the movies, and then you started doing films. I mean, that kind of transition from the classic cast over to the next gen cast.
Right.
You had some great movies. Any just quick thoughts about some of the films that you really enjoyed? And you became, did you write Nemesis?
I co-wrote the story for Nemesis.
Yeah, great film. Great story, great film. Loved it.
From your lips. I really like it.
You had you had Tom Hardy. I mean, it was...
Tom Hardy was fantastic. I think there are things that don't work about it, but in general, I think looking back, it's a more satisfying film than you remember. There was a lot of disappointment because, I think because the guy, Data, was killed, and but I like it better than, well, obviously, First Contact's our best film. There's just no way around it.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Ron and Brennan. Great film.
Ron and Brennan wrote a great script. Jonathan really rose to the occasion, directed a wonderful movie. You know, Jonathan is a really skilled director. He's a very seasoned director. these days, if you see his name on an episode, you can be pretty sure that episode's going to be good.
He's directing Picard episodes.
He's directing some of the Picard episodes. He's a pro at this point. And I've worked for him both in the Star Trek world, and I did an episode of Librarians for him. Not Librarians, Leverage. Yeah. And I love working with Jonathan. Because he knows what he's doing.
Well, kind of full circle now, you're back to Star Trek television again, and we're all so excited about Picard, and to see Data return, I mean, for us it's wonderful. How do you feel about that? It's great to be back, right? Did you think you were just done with the character? Or, I mean, it's so awesome that he's back. I mean, come on, we love Data. You have to love Data too. He's you. How can you not love it?
How can I like it?
We're excited. We're excited.
Hey, you know what? I mean, yes, I love Data. Of course I do. I mean, I'd be a fool not to, you know? I mean, Data's been very, very good to me. And, as has baseball. But as I've often
30 years
said...
later, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
But as I've often said, love is a very personal thing. And my relationship to the character is different than the audience's, because you didn't have to put on that makeup every day. And no, but I'm delighted to be part of the show, and that's all I am, is a part of the show. And I just want to say that, just kind of make it semi-clear, because I don't want it to be too clear, that I'm not a regular on the show. Data did die at the end of Nemesis. But I am on the show. I mean, I do make appearances, and Data's story is a part of the thread of the show. And but I tell you what, the scripts are so good on this show. The writing is so great, and they've put together a really terrific cast. I mean, it's Patrick's show, and it's Picard's show. That's why they call it Star Trek. Exactly. And but. The players that they've assembled around him, to an actor, are really terrific. I think you're going to love this cast and love the whole thrust of the show.
We can't wait, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you so much.
So good. It's so happy. Okay, off we go.
Hi, Brent.
Hi.
Earlier, you were talking about your love of the cast and of Star Trek, and we all thought you were done, back in 2002.
Yep.
But now you're back, and we are overjoyed. What would you say is your biggest reason for returning to Star Trek today?
By the way, James Darren, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy, thank you so much for... I'm honored. But not while I'm singing tonight. I mean, Saturday, okay? I'll tell you my biggest reason for coming back. Well, they asked me, and they were very nice about it. But also, there's a couple of more reasons. The pedigree of the writing staff was very difficult to say no to. I mean, with Alex Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman, who won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, and showrunner Michael Chabon, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist. He won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction. He's running this show and writing episodes. And I'm going to say, no, I don't think I'll work with you. And there was that, and then there was, and then there's the fact that it was the opportunity to sit across from Patrick again, and share that experience with him. And Patrick and I are really, really good friends, and I just enjoy. I did little stuff on Blunt Talk with him that we had a really good time with, and I thought, I'd like to be there with Patrick, and also you guys, because I really think if they'd gotten into the wind that they had asked me to do it and I said no, you would not be coming to my show on Saturday night. It's that simple. But there you go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yes, over there, please.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you all are like siblings, you and the fellow cast members. So
Yes.
I want to know what the absolute very first thing was that went through your mind when you heard that Patrick Stewart was going to be starring a show called Star Trek Picard.
Well, first of all, we didn't know that's what the title was going to be. We were later informed. I actually had to ask him on the set one day. I said, "Have they got a title yet?" And he said, "Yes. It's Star Trek Picard." And he said, "Quite good, don't you think?" I said, "I don't know. I kind of like Star Trek Data." But you know what? It wasn't about Data. The show's not about Data. And so I said, yeah, I'm okay with that. That sounds good. When I first heard he was going to do a new show, I thought, wow. I thought the same thing you did. Wow. Amazing. I never thought he would do this. And he never thought he would do it. But again, I think the creators of the show were so impressive that he thought, how can I not do this? These guys are great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Hi, I have a musical theater question
Yeah.
for you. I have heard that you might be interested in playing a certain Mad King in the Broadway blockbuster Hamilton. Is this true, and how can we help?
No, you know what? That is not true. Actually, I want to play Hamilton. Would you tell Lin-Manuel that I want to play Hamilton?
I absolutely will.
There's no way he'll cast me as Hamilton. But no, I saw Hamilton on Broadway with the original cast, and he was playing Hamilton. He was fantastic. What's the guy's name who was playing the king?
Jonathan Groff.
Yeah, Jonathan Groff, who was not the first, you know.
That was Brian Darcy.
Brian Darcy James, yeah.
Both guys are awesome.
Both of them are fantastic.
Yeah.
Jonathan Groff has a great show, Mind Hunters. No, is that it? Mind Hunters, Mind Hunters, right? But he was, every time he came out, he killed. And the audience was slayed. But everybody was amazing. It's one of the greatest theatrical experiences ever. When I saw it, I was sitting on the third row. That sounds good, except I was all the way on to the end, and my wife and my son were sitting next to me. And at intermission, my son said, "Oh, you know the scene where they were on the staircase?" And I went, "Wait, there's a staircase?" Because my angle was that, and even that, and I would say I missed a third of the stage. It was still the best thing I'd ever seen. It's that good. He's a genius. Lin-Manuel Miranda is fantastic.
Okay.
And should you ever see this online, Lynn, I call you Lynn, Mr. Miranda, I'd be happy to consider whatever you think of. Okay. Hi. Victor, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say I almost jumped. I almost shrieked when I saw you in the trailer. It's awesome. I wanted to ask you,
Yep.
how long did it take you to get back in the mindset of playing Data again?
You know what? That's a really interesting. How long did it take me to get back in the mindset? Less time than it took me to get into the makeup. It really kind of came back. It really was sort of, when Patrick and I were sitting there looking at each other, it came back pretty quickly. But you know what the weirdest thing is? You know how I have a phone, an iPhone, that has face recognition, and when I put on the Data makeup, it didn't recognize me. Seriously, it's so weird. And I would go, this is crazy, it won't open. And I'm thinking because it knew it wasn't me, it was Data. There you go. Thanks, Victor, good question.
All right, one more. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time. Yes.
You
Last
okay?
question.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, like working with the people on this set?
Everyone except Patrick. No, but of course, up until this point, to be honest, I've only worked with Patrick on the set, and he can be nice as long as he's been fed and has had sleep. He's very nice to work with. He's a very nice guy, actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sort of. Thanks.
Is that Toronto or LA?
It's LA.
It's LA, amazing.
Sort of LA. I mean Santa Clarita, but it's at least it's an hour from LA.
Is that at the Santa Clarita Studios or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Santa Clarita.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm doing another show. I told you about that, right? Did I mention the other show?
Which show?
I'm doing another show. I haven't started shooting yet. It's called. Did you ever watch Penny Dreadful?
Yeah, great show.
Yeah. Well, there's a new Penny Dreadful. It's called Penny Dreadful: City of Angels, and I have a part on that show. It's a big.
Great.
Yeah, it's a big ensemble, amazing actors, and it's really good. The script. I've read the first 4 scripts, and they're like, whoa, this is really good.
And when does it drop?
I don't know, because we haven't started shooting yet. We'll start shooting it in August, and late August, so.
We'll be looking for that.
Yeah.
Penny Dreadful
City of Angels. Yeah, it takes place in LA in 1938.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do us a favor and keep acting because we love you.
I'm going to try.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks so much. Come see me Saturday night.